Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. Double honor to my teachers, the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. This is your brother Ishiar from the GMS Cleveland Church, back with another lesson, and Lord willing, it is edifying. It's one of the Lord's elect, alright? And this is going to be news and prophecy, like the Elder Yashawamba attended does daily, because that's what we do. This is news and prophecy. Everything we do, everything we watch is prophecy. Everything we speak is prophecy. Prophecy means to say before, which the Lord said He will put it in our mouths, right, to speak. That's the Ezekiel 37 chapter when He gave those he breathed into them, like he gave them the spirit, roughly paraphrasing in Ezekiel 37, because when you read that, the dry bones, right, he said, this is the whole house of Israel, but some got the flesh upon them, meaning they knew they was Israelites, but they didn't have the breath, which is the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures, which is also being able to prophesy. Alright, so we out here to prophesy downfall and destruction of the United States of America according to the Holy Scriptures. And one of the prophecies is that in Revelation the 17th chapter, you had a beast. Okay, when you read Revelation 17th chapter, it speaks about the 7 heads with 10 horns, like the beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns, and on each horn was a crown, roughly paraphrasing. Those 7 heads and 10 horns represents the European nations, which some are in NATO and some are in the European Union. Okay, and all of those nations, they deal with a specific payment program known as SWIFT, which is mainly used for the ability to spend and exchange American currency, which is the U.S. dollar. All right, this is how America makes its money, right, through SWIFT, which is a pretty much, I'm gonna look up what SWIFT is because we went through it. All right, went through it a while ago. So SWIFT, right? This is prophecy, man. All right, America is losing its dominance on the planet Earth, and one way is through what? Money, right? Because America controls the world by what? They're able to spend money, which they get from the international banking families. Okay, but I'm gonna look at SWIFT. This is it right here. SWIFT. It says the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, legally SWIFT SC, right? Let's look it up on Wikipedia. It says SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, legally SWIFT.SC, is a cooperative, right, established in 1973 in Belgium, French, right? Well, it says Société Coopérative, however they say it. But it was established in Belgium, which I believe Belgium is one of the 10 horns. Okay, so if not one of the vassal states of ancient Rome, right? No, it's not. It wasn't a vassal state, right? Of ancient Rome, one of the ten vassal states was also known as the 10 horns. But the 10 horns ultimately grew. Now there's plenty of European nations that that have joined with the 7 heads and 10 horns, but nevertheless, it says it's owned by the banks and often member firms that use its SWIFT provides the main messaging network through which international payments are initiated. It also sells software and services to financial institutions, mostly for use on its proprietary SwiftNet, and they got codes and stuff like that. But nevertheless, right? It says as of 2018, and around half of all high-value cross-border payments worldwide use the SWIFT network. And this is, I'm not sure when this was, added on here, but the number has either grew or declined. But it says that in 2015, SWIFT linked more than 11,000 financial institutions in over 200 countries and territories, who were exchanging an average of over 32 million messages per day, compared to an average of 2.4 million daily messages in 1995. Okay, so this is a program that pretty much exchanges money. You see, so America, right? We just gonna get into it, man. Right? The beast is separating itself from the horde. The beast is the NATO, NATO nations, which some of them are EU nations. They're separating from the horde, which the horde is the United States of America. All right, and this was 6 months ago, and I found out about this through Redacted, when Natalie and Clayton Morris had brought out the fact that Europe is pretty much aligned with BRICS. Okay, which BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And there's many other nations that's part of BRICS too, like Iran, and a lot of other nations that are in the Eastern Hemisphere. See, these nations, they're ditching the U.S. dollar, the petrodollar, all right, and they're starting to use their own currencies because they see that America is through. It's collapsing, man. The dollar isn't worth anything. It's not backed by nothing. See, these nations have taken notice of how America has been falling. That's why it says in the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, and verse 7, it says, "All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border." Right, the border of war, man. You see, the men of thy confederacy. We're going to get into these words. It says, the men that were at peace with thee, right? It says, have deceived thee. Right. It says, and prevail against thee. They that eat thy bread take hold of this man's philosophies, his ideologies, right? His financial institutions is a way of them eating his bread. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is no understanding in him. They have completely ditched the Swift payment, Swift payment transaction program. You see. So let's get this word confederacy, right? Word confederacy. It says covenant, alliance, pledge, treaty, alliance, league, man-to-man, constitution, ordinance, agreement, pledge, alliance. But you get it. Covenant making, covenant keeping, covenant violation. You see. So the nations have, the men you have conspired with, which means breathe together. They have pretty much studied you. You see, and now they're using you have been used and tossed to the side, man, like the whore that America Babylon the Great is, man. All right, so let's play this video, man. All right, and I don't own any rights to this video. This is for educational purposes and not monetary gain. So it says Europe abandons USA dollar. France plus BRICS launch system that locks out America, and this was in February 10th, 2026, the second month of the so-called New Year. What the fuck is this guy doing? These people cannot drive. All right. So let's play.
Post-dollar world, while America Emmanuel Macron declared that France wants to build bridges between the G7 and BRICS, the economic bloc that now conducts 90% of its trade settlements without using American currency. This is not diplomatic pleasantries. This is Europe positioning itself for a post-dollar world while America watches its financial dominance disintegrate in real time. I'm Elle of House of Elle on YouTube. I have a PhD in computer science and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics. What is happening right now is not just about trade. It is about the dismantling of the architecture that has sustained American power for 8 decades, and Europe is actively participating in that dismantling while maintaining plausible deniability. Here's the context that most analysts are missing, in my opinion. When Macron met with the Indian External Affairs Minister in early 2026, he made a very specific calculation. He stated, and I'm quoting him here, "India is going to be the president of BRICS. I want to work with India to build bridges. BRICS countries must not become anti-G7, and G7 must not become anti-BRICS." On the surface, this sounds conciliatory, but when you work in finance, you learn to interpret what leaders don't say. Macron isn't proposing that BRICS nations abandon their dollar alternatives. He's proposing that Europe position itself as the bridge between two systems, which means Europe is hedging against USA financial dominance. And the timing is not coincidental. This statement came as India and the EU finalized their strategic partnership with a trade agreement, with EU leadership attending India's Republic Day 2026 as chief guest, a symbolic gesture reserved for nations of exceptional strategic importance. We have a separate video on this. They called it the mother of all deals. Meanwhile, Russia's Putin announced that BRICS nations now conduct approximately 90% of their settlements in national currencies and not US dollars. Think about what that means structurally. Europe is simultaneously a member of the G7, the traditional Western economic bloc, while actively strengthening ties with BRICS nations that are explicitly building payment systems designed to bypass American financial infrastructure.
So it's a whole bunch of backstabbing, right? And what is it? Double crossing, triple crossing going on, man. See, Esau is at odds with one another, man. And this has been the same problem with these Edomites, so-called white people, going all the way back to the Greek Empire, man. Because you said the civilization started with the Greeks, you see. And who led the Greeks? It was Alexander the Great, so-called great, right? And after he died, according to the book of the first Maccabees, right, the first chapter, when he died, he split up his kingdom, his empire, into 4 generals, which was Cassander, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and it was Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucus, and I think it was Lysimachus. Yep, Lysimachus. Right, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassander, and Lysimachus. Yep. Because you had the other one who was Antigonus, but he wasn't one of the prominent 4. But nevertheless, after Alexander, they put the crowns on their heads, right? The 4. They started going to war with each other, man, over territories, man. Because Esau is never satisfied, as the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter says. And I'm in traffic, so I can't really grab the precepts. I'm gonna quote them though. You see, so this is what's taking place, okay? Which they're not going to put on a so-called mainstream media over here in the Western Hemisphere, man. All right, because the whole point of the media is to keep you asleep. You see, that's the Greek god media, which is the god of illusions, man. You people are completely through. You see, this is why the Lord set us up to teach you, okay, to warn you about what's coming. All right, so let's keep playing.
This is not choosing sides. This is preparing for both outcomes. It's very prudent, in my opinion. Let me show you the financial mechanisms that make this possible, because this is where the real vulnerability emerges. The traditional model worked like this. If Brazil wanted to trade with India, they converted Brazilian reals to US dollars, conducted the transaction, then India converted those dollars to rupees. America collected fees on every conversion, the dollar maintained demand, and US financial institutions intermediated global trade. The system is now being systemically dismantled. According to Standard Bank's November 2025 integration with China's cross-border interbank payment system, KIPS, African banks can now settle transactions directly in yuan and local currencies without touching the dollar or the SWIFT system. Brazil and China already trade soybeans in real and yuan. India and the UAE settle energy trades in rupees and dirhams. But here's what should concern anyone paying attention. Europe isn't fighting this trend. Europe is helping facilitate it. The EU has strategic partnerships with Brazil, India, and South Africa. It's negotiating a free trade agreement with India right now, and France's diplomatic positioning explicitly frames BRICS cooperation as desirable rather than threatening. When you analyze the data, a pattern emerges. BRICS nations have launched the unit, which is a gold-backed digital currency designed for cross-border settlements. Russia, China, and India are targeting 2026-2027 for full interoperability of their central bank digital currencies, creating a parallel financial system that operates entirely outside American control. Europe's response to this has not been opposition, rather strategic positioning. The EU is strengthening individual relationships with BRICS members, while the USA pursues trade wars and tariff threats. This creates a scenario where Europe
They pursue trade wars and terror threats, man. Terrorists. You see, this place is, this is why these nations have, like I said, Obadiah. They have laid a wound for thee. They have deceived thee, man. You see, they have brought thee to the border. These nations are not scared of you Edomites no more. You Western Hemisphere, North America, Babylon, the great Edomites, man. Because you're the most proud. But guess what? Your pride has deceived thee. You see, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. You see, see, this is why they believe, these Babylonian Edomites, North American Edomites, they believe they're untouchable. They just had the 250th year of America celebration. You see, they're on top of the world right now. 250 years. No country no nation has so-called ruled the world. Okay, because that's what they're celebrating. 250 years of pretty much ruling over America and establishing their dominance over the whole world. See, this is what they did in 250 years. You see, but these nations have been deceived the whole time. You see, they have been deceived the whole time, and look what they're doing behind closed doors, man. You see this society over here, the economy over here is about to fucking collapse real soon, man. This is gonna cause a lot of problems over here in the West dealing with money, man. All right, so let's keep playing.
European countries can access both the dollar system and the emergent BRICS alternatives, while American companies remain locked into a dollar-centric system that the rest of the world is systematically trying to abandon. By the way, if you want to understand how to spot these patterns before they become obvious, I wrote a book specifically about developing critical thinking skills in an age where official narratives often obscure underlying mechanisms. It's called Awake, and it's available as both an ebook and audiobook. Subscribers to this channel get 10% off, and you can read the first chapter for free using the links in the description. The ability to interpret public data before consensus forms around it is what separates strategic positioning from reactive scrambling. But now let's talk about what this means for American power, because the consequences extend far beyond currency markets. The dollar's reserve status has allowed America to run a persistent trade deficit while maintaining economic stability. When global trade required dollars, countries needed to sell goods to America to acquire the currency for international transaction, but that dynamic is now breaking down slowly. According to Bureau of Economic Analysis data, foreign direct investments in the United States collapsed 33% from Q4 2024 to Q1 2025, dropping from $88.5 billion to $58.7 billion. Foreign equity investment plummeted even more dramatically, an 86.2% decline from $167.8 billion to just $23.2 billion. But here's the critical detail most analysts are missing, in my opinion. This is not just about Trump's tariffs creating uncertainty, although that's a huge part. It's also about structural reallocation. Goldman Sachs reported that European investors.
She's speaking a lot of numbers. I'm gonna do another lesson dealing with redacted with Natalie and Clayton Morris, because I'm about to pull up to this place. So I'm gonna do another lesson, Lord willing. This one was edifying. I'm gonna give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachakwadash, and double honor to my teachers, the head apostles, the elders, the great millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. Calling Yasharallah Shalom, Wa Abba